You know that little half second before your fish bank app loads, where your whole body gets quiet? Not because anything dramatic has happened yet. Not because the rent is late, or the card declined, or your car is smoking on the side of the road. Just because you are about to see the number, and some part of your brain is already preparing to flinch. That is the part of money nobody really talks about. We talk about budgets, investing, side hustles, interest rates, credit scores, and all the little tactics that are supposed to make you better with money. But most people are not actually trying to become spreadsheet champions. They are trying to stop feeling that tiny jolt of panic every time life asks them for money. And there is a line where that feeling starts to change. It is not $1 million. It is not a paid-off house. It is not some magical salary where you suddenly become calm, elegant, and immune to grocery prices. For a lot of people, the first real line is around $20,000. My name is Cash Cat, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, the fish bank, the mouse market, and why some people seem to walk through financial problems with a strange calm, while other people feel attacked by every bill, every email, and every sound their car makes after 80,000 miles. And before we get into the math, I want to be very clear about something. $20,000 does not make you rich. It does not mean you can stop working. It does not mean you can buy anything you want. It does not even mean you are safe from every financial disaster. But it does something that is almost more important at the beginning. It changes your nervous system. That sounds dramatic, but stay with me, because this is the hidden reason why the same dollar amount can feel completely different depending on where you are financially. A $400 expense is not just a $400 expense. If you have $200 in the fish bank, it is a crisis. If you have $2,000, it is painful. If you have $20,000, it is annoying. Same expense, same dollars, completely different emotional experience. That is the first thing to understand. Money is not just math. Money is context. If your phone breaks when you are broke, the problem is not only that the phone broke. The problem is that now every other part of your life has to rearrange itself around that one event. Maybe you delay a bill. Maybe you put the repair on a credit card. Maybe you borrow from someone and feel embarrassed. Maybe you do not repair it at all, and now your job, your communication, your navigation, your banking, and your entire life become harder for the next few weeks. But if your phone breaks and you have $20,000 sitting quietly at the fish bank, you are still irritated. Nobody is celebrating a surprise repair, but your life does not have to bend around it. You pay, you move on, and the rest of your week stays mostly intact. That is what $20,000 buys first. Not luxury, continuity. And most people underestimate how valuable continuity is, because when you have never had it, chaos starts to feel normal. You get used to every small problem becoming a chain reaction. One bill creates another bill. One late payment creates a fee. One overdraft creates another overdraft. One car repair becomes missed work, which becomes a smaller paycheck, which becomes more debt, which becomes more panic the next time something breaks. This is why being broke is so expensive. It is not only that you have less money, it is that every mistake, delay, emergency, or inconvenience gets multiplied by the fact that you have no buffer. So when people say, just save more, they are technically correct and emotionally useless. Because the hard part is not understanding that savings are good. Everyone knows savings are good. The hard part is surviving long enough, consistently enough, to build a buffer before life eats it. And that is why $20,000 matters. It is big enough that most ordinary emergencies cannot wipe it out in one hit. A $700 car repair hurts, but it does not end the month. A $1,200 medical bill is frustrating, but it does not become a 6-month credit card problem. A lost job becomes urgent, but not immediately catastrophic. You have time to think. You have time to breathe. You have time to choose the next move instead of grabbing the first option life throws at you. That is the difference between panic and pressure. Panic says, I need money right now or something breaks. Pressure says, I need to handle this carefully, but I have room. That room is where better decisions come from. Now you might be thinking, Cash Cat, $20,000 sounds nice. But if I had $20,000 sitting around, of course I would feel better. That is obvious. And yes, part of it is obvious. More money is better than less money. Incredible discovery. Put it on a mug. But the part most people miss is that $20,000 does not just protect you from emergencies. It changes the types of questions you are able to ask. When you have almost no money saved, your questions are small, urgent, and defensive. Can I afford groceries this week? Can I make the minimum payment? Can I delay this bill until Friday? Can I get through the month without something going wrong? Those are survival questions. But when you have a real buffer, your questions slowly change. Is this job still worth it? Should I negotiate? Should I take that certification? Should I move somewhere cheaper? Should I start investing more? Should I stop buying things that only make me look stable and start buying actual stability? Those are strategy questions. And that shift matters because most wealth building does not begin when you discover a secret investment. It begins when your brain has enough safety to stop treating every decision like a fire alarm. Imagine trying to learn about the mouse market while your rent is due tomorrow and your account is almost empty. Technically, you can watch a video about index funds. You can read about compound interest. You can understand the chart, but your brain is not really there. Your brain is scanning for threats. It is doing math in the background. It is asking whether the debit card will work at the grocery store. That is not laziness. That is survival mode. Survival mode is useful when there is a real, immediate threat. It is not useful as a permanent financial operating system. It makes you short-term, reactive, and exhausted. It turns every decision into a tiny emergency. And when you live there long enough, you start believing you are bad with money, when really, your brain has never been given the conditions to be good with money. This is why the first $20,000 can feel almost weird. At first, nothing happens. You do not wake up with theme music. You do not suddenly become a different person. The Fishbank app just shows a number that starts with a 2 and has 4 zeros behind it. You still have dishes in the sink. You still have emails to answer. You still need to compare prices and avoid doing anything ridiculous. But then life tests it. The car needs work. For the first time, your stomach drops for 1 second and then stops. You realize, wait, I can handle this. The rent goes up. You are annoyed, maybe even angry, but you are not immediately trapped. Your job starts getting worse. You do not quit dramatically. You do not toss your badge into the air and walk into the sunset. But you update your resume with a different kind of energy because you know you are not begging the universe for permission. That is the psychological line. Before $20,000, a lot of people live with the feeling that life can corner them at any moment. After $20,000, you begin to feel like life can still hit you, but it cannot instantly own you. Now let us talk about the math, because this is where the line becomes even more interesting. For many people, $20,000 is roughly 3 to 6 months of basic living expenses. Not for everyone, of course. If you live in a very expensive city, have a large family, or carry heavy obligations, your number may be different. But as a concept, 3 to 6 months is powerful because it changes the time horizon of your life. Without a buffer, your time horizon is the next paycheck. With a small buffer, maybe it is the next month. With $20,000, suddenly you can think in seasons. And thinking in seasons is a completely different way to live. You can plan a move. You can leave a bad job carefully. You can wait for a better offer. You can pay annual insurance instead of monthly if it saves money. You can buy the thing you actually need instead of the cheapest thing that breaks twice. You can avoid fees, avoid desperation, and avoid decisions that only make sense when you are trapped. This is where people misunderstand opportunity. They think opportunities appear randomly to lucky people. Sometimes they do. But often, opportunities are already around. The problem is that you need enough stability to use them. A course that costs $1,500 and raises your income by $8,000 a year is a great opportunity if you have cash. It is impossible if you are already floating bills. A used car deal that saves you from a terrible loan is useful if you can move quickly. It is invisible if you have no down payment. A job in another city that pays more might change your life if you can cover the move. It is just a nice thought if moving expenses would crush you. Money does not only buy things, it buys timing. And timing is one of the most underrated parts of getting ahead. Now, there is a trap here, and this is where a lot of people mess up the $20,000 line. They finally reach it, feel the panic fade, and immediately interpret that calm as permission to upgrade everything. This is very human. You spend months or years saying no. You skip things. You make coffee at home. You drive the older car. You watch friends spend freely and wonder if you are doing life wrong. Then one day you look at the fish bank and see $20,000 and your brain says, finally, we made it. Time to be rewarded. And that is exactly where the foundation gets destroyed. Because the $20,000 is not the prize, it is the platform. The prize is what that platform allows you to build next. If you spend the buffer as soon as you feel safe, you train your life to return to panic. It is like climbing out of a hole, enjoying the view for 5 minutes, and then decorating the hole so you can move back in comfortably. This does not mean you can never enjoy money. That is not the point. Cash Cat is not here to tell you to eat plain rice under fluorescent lighting until age 70. The point is that your first real buffer has a job. Its job is to stand between you and panic. If you turn it into a vacation, a luxury car down payment, or a lifestyle upgrade you cannot maintain, then you may have bought memories or status, but you sold back your calm. And once you have experienced financial calm, selling it back feels different. This is where the mouse market enters the story. Once your emergency foundation is real, investing stops feeling like a fantasy topic for people who already won. It starts feeling like the next logical step. Not because investing is magic, but because you finally have enough stability to let money stay invested without panicking every time life coughs. When someone has no savings and throws money into the mouse market, every little dip feels personal. A normal bad week in the market feels like losing grocery money. That is a terrible emotional setup. It makes you buy high, sell low, and treat long-term tools like short-term lottery tickets. But when the fish bank buffer is there, the mouse market can do its job. Your emergency money handles emergencies. Your invested money works for the future. Those two roles should not be confused. This is another reason $20,000 is a line. It separates money that protects your present from money that can build your future. Before that line, every dollar may feel like it needs to be available immediately. After that line, you can start assigning dollars different jobs. Some dollars protect, some dollars grow, some dollars pay bills, some dollars create joy, some dollars buy options. This is how organized money feels different from random money. Random money comes in and disappears. Organized money has assignments. And once your dollars have assignments, you stop asking, where did it all go? And start asking, is this dollar doing the job I gave it? That question alone can change your life. Now let us talk about income, because this is another place people get confused. A higher paycheck does not automatically move you across the $20,000 line. Plenty of people earn impressive money and still feel panic because their lifestyle expanded faster than their buffer. They make more, so they lease more car. They make more, so they rent more apartment. They make more, so they eat out more, upgrade their phone, finance furniture, take nicer trips, and suddenly, the new income is fully absorbed by the new identity. From the outside, they look successful. From the inside, they are one missed paycheck away from chaos in better shoes. That is why the $20,000 line is not just about accumulation. It is about restraint. To get there, you usually have to prove something to yourself. You have to prove that not every raise becomes a payment. Not every bonus becomes a purchase. Not every moment of discomfort needs to be soothed with spending. You have to prove that you can hold money long enough for it to become power, instead of letting it evaporate into lifestyle. That identity shift is bigger than the number, because the person who can save $20,000 has learned the beginning of a very rare skill: keeping money. Making money is important, but keeping money is what turns income into wealth. Without that skill, more income just creates a louder version of the same problem. This is why two people can earn the same salary and live completely different lives. One person has every dollar already promised before it arrives. The other person has margin. One person is constantly negotiating with due dates. The other person is deciding what to do with options. One person sees a broken appliance as a disaster. The other sees it as a bad Tuesday. Same income, different structure. And structure is what makes money feel safe. Now, if you are listening to this with nowhere near $20,000 saved, I do not want you to hear this as an insult. The point is not, just have $20,000. That would be useless. The point is to understand what you are building toward and why it matters. The first step is not $20,000. The first step is breaking the belief that money has to disappear. Maybe the first line is $500. That is the line where a small surprise stops becoming immediate debt. Then $1,000. That is the line where you start believing you can keep money on purpose. Then $2,500. That is the line where one normal emergency does not reset you to zero. Then $5,000. That is the line where your fish bank app starts looking like a tool instead of a threat. Then $10,000. That is where a lot of people begin sleeping differently. And then $20,000. That is where panic starts losing its authority. Every one of those lines matters. Your nervous system does not go from chaos to calm in one jump. It learns by watching you keep promises to yourself. That is how confidence is built. Not from pretending everything is fine, from repeatedly proving that you can handle what used to break you. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Building the $20,000 line may require boring choices. Not dramatic pain, not forever deprivation, but boring consistency. You may need to drive the car longer. You may need to keep the apartment that is fine instead of chasing the one that photographs better. You may need to say no to purchases that would impress people who are not going to help you when the bill arrives. That is hard, because the modern world is basically a machine built to turn your future calm into current upgrades. If every ad, payment plan, and social media scroll convinces you to spend now, your money will never sit still long enough to protect you. The $20,000 line requires you to stop seeing unspent money as unused money. This is huge. Money sitting in the fish bank can look boring. It is not shiny. It is not an outfit. It is not a trip. It is not a new interior for your living room. It just sits there. But while it sits there, it is doing something. It is lowering your stress. It is giving you time. It is improving your negotiation power. It is protecting you from fees. It is keeping you from using high-interest debt for normal life problems. It is letting you think longer than one paycheck. That is not idle money. That is quiet infrastructure. And most real wealth begins with quiet infrastructure. So how do you actually approach this without turning your life into a punishment? Start by separating the goal from your ego. You are not saving $20,000 to prove you are better than anyone. You are saving it because you are tired of being emotionally dragged around by every bill. Then protect the account from casual spending, remember what the money is buying, and stop moving the finish line every time your income rises. This is where the game is won. If you get a raise and your lifestyle stays mostly the same for a while, the gap grows. If the gap grows, the buffer grows. If the buffer grows, the panic fades. If the panic fades, you make better decisions. If you make better decisions, you create even more gap. That is the positive loop. It is the opposite of the panic loop. The panic loop says, I have no buffer, so every emergency becomes debt, so every paycheck is smaller, so I have no buffer. The calm loop says, I have a buffer, so emergencies stay contained, so my paycheck can build instead of repair, so my buffer grows. That is the real line. Not the exact number, but the moment you switch loops. For many people, $20,000 is where that switch becomes undeniable. And once you understand that, money starts looking different. A bonus is not just a chance to buy something. It is a chance to widen the distance between you and panic. A cheaper apartment is not a downgrade. It might be a faster route to calm. Driving the older car is not failure. It might be the reason your fish bank stops feeling like a horror movie. This is what people miss when they only talk about income. Income is the water coming into the bucket. But if your bucket is full of holes, more water just makes a louder mess. The $20,000 line is you patching the bucket. After that, everything else works better. Budgeting works better because you are not constantly starting from zero. Investing works better because you are not forced to sell at the worst time. Career moves work better because you can wait for the right opportunity. Even your confidence changes because you know you have done something difficult and quiet that most people only talk about. And no, it will not solve every problem. Money does not make you immortal. It does not fix bad habits automatically. It does not protect you from every recession, illness, breakup, layoff, or surprise expense. But it does give you a fighting chance to meet life with a calmer brain. That is what this is really about. Not becoming rich overnight. Not flexing a number. Not turning into someone who judges every coffee purchase like it is a moral failure. It is about crossing the line where money stops feeling like a constant threat and starts feeling like a tool. So if you are at zero, aim for the first $500. If you are at $500, protect the first $1,000. If you are at $1,000, start building toward 1 month of expenses. If you are already past that, keep going until your fish bank has enough calm in it that life can surprise you without owning you. And when you finally see that $20,000 line, do not rush to spend it just because the panic got quiet. That quiet is the point. Protect it. Build from it. Let it change how you move through the world. Because the real magic of $20,000 is not that it makes you rich. It is that it gives you the first taste of what money is supposed to feel like. Not panic, possibility.